The Hosofos of Torah would do the Maimer of the Parshas Tetzaveh, the Hosofos, להבין שורשי הדברים הפוסק ואתה תצוה. To understand the root of these matters and the pasuk ואתה תצוה. This is the Maimer that the Alter Rebbe writes inside of the Torah Ohr and the Parshas Tetzaveh. In the Hosofos, he's giving you the Shorshim, is giving you the root of the discussion, in other words, the sources and the root and the Kabbalah of what he spoke about in the Maimer inside of the Parsha. להבין שורשי הדברים הפוסק ואתה תצוה is Bnei Yisrael. Talking about what is the role of Aaron. Aaron was, the Pasuk talks about bringing the Neiris, they brought that to Moshe Rabbeinu, so that later on Aaron could light the menorah. And he's going to talk about the avodah from Aaron lighting the menorah. The avodah of Aaron lighting the menorah, that means that Aaron elevates all the mitzvahs, the menorah that the Yidden do. Aaron gives the power to elevate him to a higher level. We see that the mitzvahs that we do in Avodas Hashem, the level of Aaron is to bring it up even to a higher level. Talk about the union of Simcha Shel Mitzvah. There is the mitzvah, then there is the mitzvah that you do it with Simcha, with joy, that brings it up into a higher level. Aaron is considered the Shushvina and the Matrunisa. Shushvina means by a chosen kala, you have the unterfirer, the people that lead the chosen and the kala to the chuppah. That's called a shushvina. A shushvin basically means a support for the chosen, a support for the kala. The Gemara is also full in the Mishnah shushvinin. Those are support for the chosen and the kala. The Eibishter is sort of compared to a chosen. The Jewish people are compared to a kala. They are the groom, the bride, and the Aaron helps to bring us towards Hashem, towards the chosen, by elevating our mitzvahs, brings us closer to Hashem. Let's look inside. Hine, להבין שורש ואתה תצוה בני ישראל. הנה, שורש בחינת Aaron, שנקרא שושבינו דמטרוניסה. What is the root? What is Aaron? Aaron is called the shushvina, the support of Matrunisa. Matrunisa is the queen. What does it mean, the support? The support means he helps bring up Hainu, B'chinas, Ha'alois, Horapach, Nitzutzis, the elevation of the 288 sparks. B'chlal, we know that the 288 sparks are what came down into this world from the Shviras HaKelim. Those are the avodah that the Yidden do. They need to elevate 202 who are already elevated, and Pevav are still need to be elevated. But generally speaking, is what we're doing is we're taking those sparks from Toihu and elevate them. So She'arein hu hamayla oiso. Aaron elevates them. B'zehu, and this is what it says, when you bring up the neiris. Bringing up the neiris means you bring up the mitzvahs. Every mitzvah is mevarer. You do with the gashmis, you mevarer some of the sparks. So when Aaron brings up the neiris, brings up the mitzvahs, brings up the sparks. V'haneiris hein hamitzvahs. Neiris are the mitzvahs, so Aaron brings up the mitzvahs. What's the connection between neiris and mitzvahs? That a mitzvah is like the lamp. So the mitzvah that we do get elevated through Aaron, who brings up the neiris to the higher level. He's going to explain now that the mitzvah itself goes only up to a certain level, and then you need Aaron to bring it up even to a higher level. So to understand, explaining these ideas here, the The pasuk says, "Mechutz laparoiches ha'edus yarich oisei are." Basically, there is a curtain, so to speak, between Atzilus and Beriah. There's like a separation, a curtain that separates. It's called a parsa, a pargid, it separates. And the Yidden basically bring up the mitzvahs up to the pargid, up to the curtain. Over there, Arib picks it up from Biyah and brings it into Atzilus, brings it in through the curtain, brings it up to the higher level. In the Mishkan, Hamikdash, there was the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That was the curtain. This was lit michutz laparoiches, outside of the curtain, which means not in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which in our case corresponds to Atzilus, which is the Kodesh HaKadoshim. This was michutz laparoiches. This was outside of the curtain, in the Heichal. Over there, he lit the menorah Aaron. So basically, what he's trying to say that Aaron took from outside of the curtain, from outside of Atzilus, from Biyah, and he raised the menorah to the higher level. That Aaron arranges the lights of the menorah outside of the curtain that covers on the testimony, meaning on the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Pirush mechutz laparoiches. What does it mean? Outside of paroiches, hainu mechutz lebechinas parsa. That is outside of that curtain. Hamafsekes bein Atzilus lebiyah. There is a curtain that separates between Atzilus and Biyah, and this is outside of the curtain, which means it's in Biyah. Shetargum yonesom paroiches pargid. He translates the word paroiches as a pargid. V'hainu parsa, that's the curtain. That's a curtain that is between them. What does this curtain mean? The curtain means that that's a cover. A curtain doesn't allow for the sun to come in. And you put up a curtain to take away the power of the sun, to condense it, not to come in with the full force. The same thing is the name of Hashem says Shem Hashem Shumogin Hashem Elikim. Hashem is like the sun. Elikim is the curtain. So that's the curtain that condenses. The Shem Elikim is mitzamtzem, contracts the light of the Shem Havaya. That is the curtain that the Shem Elikim is the curtain that allows for a lesser oil to come down into Biyah. That parsa is the name of Elokim Hashem that blocks. Like the pasuk says, that just like the sun and a shield is Hashem with Elikim, Hashem being the sun and Elikim being the shield, the protector. There's, so to speak, the sun itself has a seed that doesn't allow for the full sun to come down, that protects it. Just like the Nartek Hashemesh is Mogin. Lahas Tiroid Hashemesh is a protector to block the sign, the light of the sun. Kach Shem Elikim hu amastir l'Shem Havaya. Likewise, the Shem Elikim blocks the Shem Havaya. This is therefore, by way of example, the curtain and the cover that blocks and obscures the light. So that's the idea of the Shem Elikim. This is what our Savior Blessed Memory said. That in the future, God will take out the sun from its seed. It will no longer be hidden. What does it mean? It means that it will not be Shem Elikim. It says in the pasuk, it says by Yaakov, it says, V'hoyo havaya lil Elikim. So the Maimorim explain That's the Bible Torah of the Vazon. There he explains what does it mean Hashem will be Elikim. Right now, Hashem is the Ohr, and Elikim is the Tzimtzum. But in the future, there's going to be no Tzimtzum. So it's going to be what is Hashem now. That's going to be the Tzimtzum, which means it's going to be in a much higher way. It explains over there in the Maimer, it's going to be in a much higher way. That's going to be when Hashem takes out the sun from its seat. Okay, so what happens now? So Aaron lights outside of the curtain. Aaron lights the menorah. Hine Aaron hu bechinas shushvino lahalois hanitzutzois mibya la'atzilus. So Aaron becomes the shushvin, the support to elevate the sparks from Bri Yitzira Asiya to Atzilus. Zehu shekosu b'chutz laparoiches yarech haneires. Outside of the curtain, he arranges the neiros, which means mechutz leparsa anal. That's outside of that curtain. Ba'achar kach yale oisom la'atzilus. Then he brings them up to Atzilus. What is the idea that we call him a shushvin? A shushvin, a support, means that occasionally you need a support. You're bringing a chosov with a kala together. This is like a new match. You're bringing a boy and a girl. You're bringing them together, making so that everybody's afraid, everybody's scared. You don't know. You need a support. Why are we calling Aaron, who is doing this all the time? It's just his job. Why are we calling him a shushin, a support? You do on an occasional thing. The person needs support. That seems like to be Aaron's job. Aaron is always doing it because every day we bring up the sparks. Why we call him a shushvin? The Alter Rebbe explains that every day, what is a chosn kala? It's the simcha that brings. There's such a simcha that every day with that simcha there is a shushvin. Let's look inside. Hine haloshin l'chayra loishayich elo b'chasino d'choson v'kala. It almost seems that language of a shushvin only applies, would seem, by a wedding of a chosen akala. Sheyesh lahem shushvinin. They have support. They have the shushvinin. V'hu li'itim uprokim rechoikim. That's occasionally and far into intermediate, not a support every day. Avo balos hanedes, but the work of Aaron, haros hanedes, harahoya b'chol bein harbayim. This was every evening. V'lama nikra b'shvil zeh b'shem shushvina. So why is it called a shushvina? Why is it called a support when this is something which is ongoing? But the idea is the whole bechinas is chadshus oir mevia hasimcha v'hatayim. Every time when there is a renewal of light, this brings happiness and delight. That's the idea. That's the idea of a chasana. Why are we rejoicing? This is something new, a new house, a new house being built. Same thing is when you bring up and you fix them, the lamps, even though this was every day. But still, every day there was a new simcha. Because of this renewal of halos rapach nitzoitzos hamischachim b'chol yom, the bringing up of the 288 sparks that are every day renewed, lalis mibiyah la'atzilus, Because every day you bring out, there's a renewal of new sparks being elevated from Beata Atzilus. And that's why it's called the Shushvin, because it is a chasana, it is a simcha, it is a renewal, it's something major happening every day, and that's why we need the support every day from Ar. So what is this idea that it's every day? So he says, the hine yodua, the inyan habirurim, it's known in this matter when we talk about birurim, to sort things out, to bring up the sparks. Shamalchus mevarer b'chol yom. Malchus every day is mevarer. U'k'meshekosu b'malchus da'atzilus, as it's written in the pasuk that refers to Malchus of Atzilus. Batokom be'oid lailo, batitein terev chulu. So this is the pasuk in Eishes Chayil that we did say on Friday night from Mishlei. So the pasuk says, it talks about the Eishes Chayil, which is the level of Malchus, and we say that she gets up at nighttime. Batitein terev. Terev means the food. She gives the food, prepares the food for the home. In Malchus, we say she prepares terev. The word terev is reish pei tes. That's one more than reish pei ches. The Rapach, we're talking about the 200. She gives terev. Terev is reish pei tes. Sometimes when you make a gematria, you add one more because of the word itself. That's called im hakoilel. With the koilel, in other words, it gets one more. So this is a reference. She gives teref, she gives the reish peiches lebeisa to her home, meaning to Atzilus. Malchus brings up those reish peiches nitzutzes and gives it lebeisa. Batitein teref chulu. Teref hainu reish peiches im hakoilel. That's with the, when you include it, when you include the word itself, reish peiches with is reish peites. Ukumesh kosuv, it brings other psukim which uses the word teref. Alei zayis teref b'fiha. She had this olive branch that was a teref, tof reish peites in her mouth, or v'chein teref nosan lireov. So there it says also. So that's also a hint for this idea of the reish peiches. So the Aren who shushvino the matrunisa, and Aren is the support of the queen, meaning Aren is the support of Malchus. Hainu Shemai les hamalchus shenikra matrunisa. He elevates Malchus, which is called Matrunisa, in Kol B'chines Hanitzutzes Shabidera, together with all the sparks that Malchus had mevared, that was brought up from Biyah, from the mitzvahs. Vehein Haneidos, what is the Nitzutzes? Those are the Neidos Shabinoida. Those are the lamps of the Menoida. Hakoyelim Kol Habirurim. That includes everything. So, and because of this renewal of these rapach nitzutzes, the teref that the Malchus brings up, so there is a renewal, there's a great excitement. This branches out to the level of joy above. And where is this simcha? Where do you reach with that simcha? Ba'atzilus u'bebchinas hey gevuras de ema. That's in the 5 gevuras of ema. That's in the level of the hey gevuras of the ema. K'maisha kosu of bina, or k'maisha kosu ema bonim smecha. The mother of the children is smecha. So bina, which is the mother of the children. So the level of bina becomes b'simcha. That's the level where you're mamshich the simcha from the zischachus. We say in the pasuk la Yehudim ha'isa oira v'simcha. Oira is Chochma, and Simcha is Bina. V'zehu inyan Oira v'Simcha. HaSimcha be'ema, if we say Ema Bonim Smecha, the Oira is Ba'aba, that's Chochma. But they go together. Chochma and Bina always go together. Uklalusum Yachad, and generally, Heim Ave'em. That's the father and the mother. Shenikroim, Terein Rein Chulu, they are referred to as two friends that don't separate. You have Ave'em, both of them. So he's going to explain now that this simcha that comes from the mitzvah, from the halacha, reaches up to the level of bina, which is greater than the level of tzaddik. Tzaddik, it says that tzaddik is yisoid olam. Tzaddik comes from the level of Yosef HaTzaddik. He is considered level of yisoid. That is mashpia into malchus. So that's a chayd yisoid. Right before malchus, you have yisoid. A tzaddik, which is mitzvah alone, who does the mitzvah, that is the level of yisoid. But simcha shel mitzvah, that's the level of bina. Biur hadvarim, to explain this matter. Hine, simcha shel mitzvah hu b'chinas bina. That's the level of bina. So yoser gavoya, this is also higher merev koil. Rev koil is called all b'chinas tzaddik shenikra koil. That's the level of tzaddik, which is called koil. Everything. This is more than koil because this is level of bina. Ki yedua shehei chesodim shebeyisoid. The 5 level of chesodim, which are in the level of yisoid, which is the level of tzaddik. The hei chesodim, heim nun sharei bina. Those are the 50 gates of understanding, which means that the 50 gates of understanding, the way they descended into the level of yisoid. But the simcha shel mitzvah, the simcha that comes from the mitzvah, he b'chinas pnimis bina. That's the inner bina, which is in bina itself. Bina as chochma and bina. Shehi yoser merev koil, which is more than rev koil. So tzaddik is rev koil, that's yisoid. That's his level. I'm ashekosu. Nizal posik ra'isi v'hine menei razov. The roads are in the maamer. But oid, and another thing is kibina rak ad hoid is pashtus. Mashenkin be yisoid. Bina expands only to hoid. That's a hoid, but not in yisoid. Yisoid is level of tzaddik, level of koil. Mashenkin be yisoid. I guess what he says before that there is nun sharei bina, he said that's the Eichsodim in yisoid. That's not the actual ispashtus. That's a further level. Not sure exactly, because before he said that the Eichsodim should be so the nun sharei bina. But he says, now he quotes that bina only goes to the level of hoid. Ukamashikosu b'ray mehemne rish pashis tisa al posik v'adalo yami v'im came. Oh, he addressed it. Mashenikra yisoid koil. Why is he called koil? Al shem shabakabel. This is what he's babonim. Shabakabel nun sharibina. Eine atzmius nun sharibina. It's not the nun sharibina itself. It's a seal. A seal, when you press on the wax, you get the image. So it's not the actual. It's not the actual seal. It's the indentation or the protrusion that you have from the choisem. So the bina that is in yisoid is in a choisem style. That it's not the actual bina, but it's a reflection. It's a stamp. Bina stamped it. Fine. V'lochein ben mitzvahs nemar meroiv koil That's why by mitzvahs we say merev koil, because koil is only yisoid. This is more than koil, nor this level of bina. Now he's going to say that even the level of bina, the level of simcha that we're talking about, that's not the ultimate. Which means we have simcha of a mitzvah, but the real reward of the mitzvah, which means the way it's in Keser, in Arichampin, over there, we don't have it in this world in a regular way. Sometimes to avoid that we get it. So he says like this: no, schar mitzvah b'hai al maleka. We don't have the reward of the mitzvah, which means the real reward of the mitzvah, the way it's in the highest level, we don't have it. Elarak simcha shel mitzvah bilvad. We only have simcha shel mitzvah, but not the schar of mitzvah. Why is it? Inyan shoyrish hamitzvahs atzmon ulemailo b'bchinas galgalto the arich anpin the taryag urchi. We talk about the root of mitzvahs. There are 613 mitzvahs. So in the Kabbalah, it says the mitzvahs are considered the rotzen. They're like the skull. It's an image of a person. And the skull of Arich Ampin, the Galgalta of Arich Ampin. And there is 613 passages over there, which is in the skull of Arich Ampin. And we're going to see now how the hair that comes from the skull, that's compared to Torah. That's only, and the skull itself, that's more the level of mitzvahs. Hine b'chinas hasaydus the galgalto. When we talk about the hair, talk about the Arich Ampin, that's the great face, the in Keser, the skull, the image of a skull. So you have the hairs that come from the skull, from the Galgalta, from that skull. Hainu, Bechinas Oisius HaTorah. That is the letters of the Torah. Ki yadua b'moshul hasaydus. Why is the Torah compared to the Sidus? Because the Sidus actually have a little hole. Every ear has a little hole, and the energy from inside the skull goes through into the ear. Basically, by Torah, from the level of Arich Ampin, it goes through a little bit into the ear, into the reasoning, into the Torah. It's known as the Moshul Hasaydus, Shu Kemoshul Hadibur Mamash. This is like speech, like words, which means, what does it mean like words? A word in itself is not seichel. A letter contains in it an idea. The idea, the word, is just a way to express an idea. So basically, the word is the train that delivers an idea from one person to the other idea. But the word itself doesn't have any, it's not intellect, it just carries in it. The Sidus, he wants to say, also carry that little bit of seichel in them. That's like a dibur. Mam, sharei, kidu marsteu shkumar du mam, sharei bitzuruf ve'oisius hadibur, shemitoichom mevinim gufa shel haskola, because when you combine the letters that you speak, that from the letters you can understand the idea. You have a letter, it's an idea. So you have an idea that is dressed up in these words. So you have the idea goes out and it shines from the combination of the letters. You put a whole bunch of letters together and then you can take out an idea. Kach, the Moshul Hasidus, same thing is by the example of the Sidus. Hayinika shel chayus hamoichin mulubeshes b'cholol hasayda. The nurturing of the energy of the moichin is dressed up in the here of the sayda. V'ha'ore boikeya v'yoytze min hamoichin derech cholol hasaydus. And the light, the shine, breaks through from the moichin through the whole of the sidus. Kimoi sheyoytze oir haseichel derech tzirufei oisyos hadibur. Just like the seichel goes through the letters of speech, the moichin of Arich Ampin goes through the sidus to break through through the whole of the sidus to break through to the outside. So, according to this, the Oishis HaTorah, Shorshim Mebechinas Sidus, so the letters of Torahs which are rooted in the level of Sidus, Hey Mebechinas Levush Mikli Bilvad, Lebechinas Gilu Oir V'chayis HaMelubush Behem. So they are just a garment, they are a vessel only to the chayis that's in them. In other words, they contain, there is a chayis that comes from inside that breaks through. They're just like a letter that breaks through them. What is that? Dahainu b'chinas halavnunis shelemaylo min hasaydus. That is the lavnunis, that's a white, that's the area which is higher than the Cyrus. There is an area in the skull which is called lavnunis, the white. That is a higher level than the level of Cyrus, because the Cyrus just break through the seichel, through the small hole of the side of the inika, the keli. But does kibichinas lavnunis shabin the galgalta, that lavnunis of the galgalta hanikra chivarti, that's called chivarti. Hu hanikra orchim, those are called the ways. So before he said it's 613 urchin, those are the ways, those are the lavnunis. So according to this, mitzvahs are a higher level. They come from lavnunis. They come from the chivarta, which Torah comes from the sidus. So, harihu shoyresh liinikas hasidus yetzevchim hamchulim. They grow from them. I'm imagining again exactly. I'm imagining that the lavnunis is inside of the skull, and the sidus break through the skull. That's a little. So the level of mitzvahs comes from the lavnunis, which is in a higher level than the level of Torah. K'yedua b'idra ravid rezuta shalavnunis sevelas hatzmicha shel hasayda chulu, that the lavnunis tolerates the growth of the sidus. So, according to this explanation, the way it's explained in the Kabbalah, that the shoyresh of Torah is sidus and the shoyresh of mitzvahs is the lavnunis, turns out that mitzvahs are on a higher level than Torah. And that's why Torah explains mitzvahs. Always, the one that explains is on a lower level than what he's explaining. He has to explain to you. So the mitzvahs, since the Torah tells us how to do the mitzvahs, it means that the mitzvahs are what we're trying to explain. That's the higher level. And this is what we see. The Torah is merely explaining the mitzvahs. Kemoisha befarish b'Torah ma'isa choshel v'oifed. I mean, it's evident why he gives this example, because it's Parshas Vata Tetzaveh, not the Tetzaveh. It talks about the Choshen and the Eifed. So he says, as explained in the Torah Choshen Eifed, the Parsha is Harbe, many sections. Ba'amrei, he says, Ba'asisa Choshen Chulu, make a Choshen, etc. Ukayetz bazeh b'chol ha-mitzvahs. Like all the mitzvahs similar. Harei, Oisius ha-Torah heima ha-mefarshim le-mitzvahs eichiyu. So the letters of the Torah, they explain the mitzvahs, how the mitzvahs should be. V'ha-pirush hu ha-tofel b'chol mokoim legabe ha-dover shu mefarish oisei. The explanation is always secondary to the item that he explains. So in other words, if I'm explaining something, that means the thing is being explained is on a greater level. Mitzvahs are the main. The Torah is only the commentary, that's secondary. And that is, the words of Torah are the levels of the siders, the galgalto, that are hollow, that have a wholeness. In them, it pushes through, the light comes out. From the lavnun galgalto, those are the mitzvahs that are called orchim. As we say, called orchos havaya, abit orchosecha chulu. So the mitzvahs we see are referred to as orchos. So now we understand in the pnimius or in yonim where the level of Torah is, where the level of mitzvahs is, and how mitzvahs are higher than the level of Torah. Valkein Amru Chazal, and that's why our sages tell us the schar mitzvah b'hai al maleka. There's no reward in mitzvah. Why? The gufa shall maisa ha mitzvahs, because the maisa mitzvahs itself, we don't get it, because all what we get is the way it breaks through the sidus, it breaks through Torah. But we don't get the lavnunis itself. So the gufa shemaisa mitzvah shorshel lemaila, because what is the root above is bibchinas chaverta de galgalta, darachampi. Over there, it's in the level of the chaverta de galgalta darachampi. Shein hayer yetzer misham rag bibchinas simtzum gadol. From there, the light doesn't come out only through a great contraction. The hainu b'oisis ha'torah shemefarshim oisum kenal. That's in the letter of the Torah that explained them shenikra b'chinas sidus, which are called sidus. Mashenkin atzmius halavnun is the galgalta, but the essence of the lavnun is the galgalta. La yuchel is galus klau. That cannot be revealed at all. Ki im shu b'chinas makiv, but that is only makiv. V'lochein schar mitzvah by almo leko. That's why there's no schar in Aimal. In other words, we can't get the lavnunis. We only get the way it breaks through the sidus. However, he says, just a little bit of a drop. It does shine and is revealed and extends above from this level of chavarti. B'chol Shabbos b'shachris. Every Shabbos morning there is a revelation above, from that level of chivarti, from that level of the inside. The Bahainu, and this comes out b'yud beis lachamim shenikras suduso de atiko. That's called the meal of Atik, because at that point, the Biur, as explained elsewhere when explaining a Maimer, revealed to us the secret of the 12 breads, which I guess is related to this whole concept that we're talking about over here. Okay.